Be a part of the best pro wrestling podcast today by supporting the Going In Raw Patreon. You can enjoy access to the live taping of the show, exclusive merchandise, and patron-only episodes, and so much more. Support Going In Raw today. Click the link in the description. Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome to Going In Raw Countout, the only pro wrestling countdown show on our channel at youtube.com/Steve and Larson.
Correct.
This is very correct. We're also available on podcasts, and people are very happy they get the Countout show on the podcast. That didn't used to be the case with the way we used to do it, Larson.
Correct.
Yeah, anyways. Last weekend, Survivor Series.
Yes.
Featured one of the more shocking match finishes we've seen. Or is this shocking matches or match finishes?
Shocking victory, wins, finishes.
Finishes, okay. Match finishes, okay. And that had a very shocking one where Goldberg decimated Brock Lesnar, and I believe when the ref counted 3 after the jackhammer, our reaction was somewhat like this. So,
the match lasted all of about 90 seconds.
Yeah, that got us to thinking, what are the 10 biggest, the 10 most shocking match finishes in pro wrestling history? We've got 10 of them here, and we're going to count them down now.
Correct.
Number 10.
10.
The 1-2-3 Kid versus Razor Ramon. 1-2-3 Kid, of course, nowadays is known as
X-Pac!
X-Pac, that's right. Sean Waltman, member of the Clique.
Friendo of Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Kevin Nash.
That's right. So on a May 17th episode, May 17th, 1993 episode of Monday Night Raw, there was an absolutely shocking finish. It was a match that lasted less than 2 minutes where the 1-2-3 Kid, a massive underdog to the cocky Razor Ramon.
Yeah, previous to this match, the 1-2-3 Kid was a jobber.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
He lost a lot.
How long does it say how long he was in? I don't think he was in very long. Because Scott Hall, he's the one who, he said he's the one who went to Vince and said, hey, or no, he knew of, I guess he was called the Lightning Kid before this, back when he was in the WWE, WWF. And Scott Hall was aware of his work and he really liked him. And then when he found out that Vince was bringing him in, he was very happy and wanted to work with him. And I'm pretty sure this is part of Scott Hall's, if it wasn't his idea to have the Kid go over, he was definitely on board with it. Yeah. Obviously, in this case, he did everything he could do to put him over.
Yeah.
One thing I kind of noticed, so we kind of know the story of how the Clique formed. Like, HBK saw Nash in WCW, liked him, and he went out and told Vince, hey, bring this guy in. Yeah. And they meshed.
Yeah,
really well.
And Nash and Hall knew each other, or were friendly from their time in WCW.
That's right. I never really saw a big explanation. And then, of course, Triple H, they brought him in because they all liked him in WCW again.
Yeah. He
came in, and he was the sober one who just really loved to talk about the business.
Yeah.
So they brought him in to sort of be the designated driver.
Yeah.
I've never really heard, like, an extensive history of how they all absorbed. Oh, no, they did. They said... they said they admired his balls because
he pulled a prank on
the smoking guns.
Yeah.
That's right.
He put super glue in their hats, right?
That's right. He put super glue in their hats.
They talk about that in the Clique documentary.
That's right. So that gives you some background, some context. But to have somebody at this level of, like, he's basically a light heavyweight. He's a tiny guy compared to Razor Ramon, who was super over at the time. He was a heel at the time, but he was one of their biggest heels.
Yeah.
And Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, put him over in shocking fashion, less than 2 minutes. It was one of those where, obviously it was a win that he sort of stole.
Yeah.
He sort of snuck away. He didn't, like, dominate Razor
Ramon.
For 40 minutes.
He did a top rope maneuver.
Yeah.
Transition to the pin. Got a quick 3 count.
Yeah.
Or a 1-2-3 count.
Yeah. It says here, according to our Scoops notes, get Stephen Wilds, a.k.a. Scoops. We got some Scoops notes here. It says Waltman, like you said, was a jobber until Hall put him over. This was planned from early on, but they kept this plan limited to a few people knowing, not even telling the wrestlers that he had jobbed to. So these guys are putting him over, and then all of a sudden Razor Ramon. And this is kind of interesting in the whole jobber context, in that it's kind of like Waltman himself, X-Pac, was on Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast, and he talked about how nobody respected Chyna as sort of a legitimate wrestler in their eyes until Stone Cold sold for her. And at that point, everybody else knew it was okay to sell for her.
Yeah.
And in this respect, once somebody sort of up here like Razor Ramon puts over the 1, 2, 3 Kid, then he's even seen in the wrestler's eyes as legitimate.
Yes.
So it's kind of interesting.
Let's talk a bit about the rematch, because this was an interesting match on a couple different levels.
Yeah.
For one, Razor Ramon had to put up $10,000 for X-Pac to accept.
Yes.
And then there's that the infamous spot where the concrete was underneath
exposed.
The ring padding was exposed.
Right.
And the 1, 2, 3 Kid slipped on the turnbuckle, landed head first on the concrete, concussed himself.
Yeah, you watch that. They probably have it on WWE's YouTube page.
Or it's on the network, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I know it's on the network. Sometimes they put that stuff up on their YouTube page, so maybe we can link to it in the description, but it's definitely on the network. And yeah, he got concussed. And they were talking about in one of the, it might have been the Click documentary, how they were like that the finish of that match had to be very specific.
Yes.
Because Waltman, the X-Pac, grabs the bag and runs away with it. He basically steals it.
Yeah.
And so he grabs it. And, luckily enough, he wasn't so fucked up that the concussion didn't do that. But he says he didn't remember doing that. It was all instinct, like grab the bag and get the hell out of there. But if you watch it, it's like, oh, God.
Yeah, it does not look good.
People put themselves through so much shit. So yeah, I love Scoop's notes because he'll always interject his own weird shit. And so like right here it says, remember the match at In Your House where Ramon put a diaper on the 1, 2, 3 Kid? It was called the Crybaby match. And he just says, what? And then of course, like we don't know this already, Scoops puts right here, Waltman made a porno with Chyna in 2004, an amateur film named One Night in China that was named the top-selling release in 2006. The funniest bit about Stone Cold's podcast is how he wants every detail about the production
you
of
mentioned that.
Was there somebody in there with you? Who was calling the shots? Who was directing it? And X-Pac wouldn't give him like a straight-up answer. Of course, X-Pac does a podcast now with Johnny Fairplay. I didn't know it was Johnny Fairplay.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, he was in TNA for a while, I think. Yeah. And Scoops also approves of Waltman's work in MTV's Wrestling Society X. Has that ever been released anywhere?
I don't think so.
I kind of want to check it out. It seems like everybody.
I remember watching the first episode of it.
Yeah, I think I did too. Like I barely remember. I remember it had a cool design aesthetic.
Yeah.
Because even that name, Wrestling Society X, is a cool name.
Yeah, it is.
I want to know more about it.
Yeah, it's a good name.
Yeah. Number 9.
9. David Arquette wins the WCW title.
Now, this is actually in a tag match.
Yes.
It was him
and DDP.
And DDP versus
Jarrett and Bischoff.
That's right. So, and DDP was the current. He was the champion coming into this match.
Yeah.
And it was on Thunder.
Yeah.
An episode of Thunder.
On April 26th, 2000.
Oh, God, remember Thunder? When did Thunder start? I don't remember.
Probably like 99?
99? Yeah,
98 or
that
99.
sounds about right. So maybe this is when Thunder, they were still trying to make it be kind of relevant.
No?
It was a title change on
Thunder.
I
know, but it was fairly irrelevant like 5 months after it started, was it not?
Sooner than that, yeah. Absolutely. So this was as part of this is a promotional campaign match.
Yeah.
For the movie Ready to Rumble.
Correct, which starred
David Arquette.
David Arquette.
That's right. Hold on a second. I want to look up Ready to Rumble. I want to see how it did at the box office. Take a guess. How much was the budget? Take a guess.
Budget was $20 million.
Close. 24.
And
how much
made
made it at the box office?
17.
12.5. Oh. So evidently, him winning the WCW title did not skyrocket that. It was not the next Avatar.
No, it was not.
No.
Or the first Avatar, because Avatar hadn't come out when that movie came out.
I like this Scoops note. Many believe this angle hurt WCW's future with the fans and head office, leading to their eventual selling. WCW ran a list. WWE Magazine ran a list of reasons WCW failed, citing this title run as the number one reason. That could be there's So many reasons.
Yeah, that's the episode we should do. Top 10 reasons WCW failed.
Oh my God! I mean, yeah. And we were watching so much WCW back then, and the writing was so on the wall. It was like,
oh yeah,
this is not going well.
Yeah,
this is not going well.
Bad.
Yeah, I like this though, Scoops also, and this is a really good point because the finish it ended with
a double pin, right?
There was a double pin that was going on, but the ref
only saw Arquette pin Bischoff.
Well, he just went to the first one he saw, I imagine, and yeah, it was Arquette. Yeah, Arquette pinned Bischoff, and Kimberly Page was involved in the match.
Yeah, she was the ref, I thought.
Yeah, but then she got knocked out.
Yeah, Mickey J was the second ref.
Yeah. So he came running in.
Who counted the fall, yeah.
Who counted that fall. It was a mess. Because I watched this not that long ago.
Yeah.
It was an absolute mess of a match. Like, Bischoff comes in late, or he comes back. David Arquette gets like beat up early, and then he ends up coming back and scoring a pinfall on Bischoff after DDP had like get him with a diamond cutter, and then he went over to get Jarrett. And as DDP, I think, was pinning Jarrett, David Arquette came in and started pinning Eric Bischoff. And then and Mickey J came in and did the 3 count and awarded the title to David Arquette, who looked surprised. And DDP was happy. This is your title, for the company you're representing. This company that dates back to like 1948.
Yeah,
and you're
that's not the emotion you would expect after just losing your title.
It's not. And why is this a tag match where whoever gets the pin gets the title? There's 2 people who are just completely unqualified to run with that title anyways, Bischoff and Arquette. So that didn't make a lick of sense.
No, but who came up with this angle?
It was Vince Russo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although he claims that Tony Schiavone was the one who brought the possibility of Arquette winning the belt.
And I think Schiavone even said that he said that in jest. I'm almost positive that he said, hey, you should have David Arquette win the belt. And if you say it in that intonation, everybody knows you're joking.
Yeah.
And Vince Russo picked it up. Hey, bro, that's a great idea, bro. And then, of course, I saw a shoot interview later with Russo, and he's like, is justified because he was on the front, like in the little corner blurb.
I know, the front page of USA
front page
Today.
of USA Today, which who reads USA? If hotels didn't exist, would USA Today have a purpose?
I don't think so.
Who gets USA Today? Can you get a daily subscription to USA Today? How does that work?
I think you can only get them if you stay at a hotel or get it in an airport.
I think so. I think that's the case.
That's the only 2 times I've ever seen a USA Today in circulation.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like if you go, driving around a neighborhood, people have newspapers in front of their house.
I've never seen a USA Today.
Never seen a USA Today.
House. I've never seen that. Can you even do that?
I don't know.
You would think you'd be able to because it's like USA Today.
It'd probably show up in the mail, I would think, rather than have it delivered. Like a newspaper.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes more sense. He's like a real newspaper. Let's see. So David Arquette held the title for 12 days until he lost it. Did that cover the release of the movie?
One would hope that they timed their promotional match at the right time.
The release of the movie was April 7th. And this happened on
April 26th.
So the movie was already out. So they knew, okay, we had a disastrous opening weekend.
Oh, no, this is almost 3 weeks after the movie came out.
We had a disastrous opening 3 weekends.
At this point, the movie's already probably being pulled from theaters. See, this is why WCW went under. They couldn't even coordinate their promotional efforts. If you're going to have a match like this happen, you have to time it so it coincides with the release of your film. Not 3 weeks after, that weekend. So the Thursday before the movie comes out, David Arquette... Granted, David Arquette should not have won the belt, period. But if David Arquette is going to win the belt, it should have happened... What day? April 7th, he said?
Yeah.
Which is a Friday. April 6th.
Not 20 days later when you know your film is in a shitter.
No!
And it's not even like it was going to be on VHS for another 6 months or DVD for another 6 months.
It makes no sense.
Oh my God.
I wonder if it's a situation where it's like, oh man, this movie's tanking.
Yeah.
We need to do something.
We need to inject some life into this. If he wins the title, maybe everybody's going to
Maybe we could do a full re-release.
Maybe do a 3D re-release. Oh man, we put it on the Oscar bait circuit.
Oh man.
Yeah, so he held it for 12 days. So,
And he lost it. Well, he turned on DDP at the triple cage match. They had it Slamboree 2000.
Yeah.
And he swerved DDP and Jeff Jarrett won the belt.
Yeah, he basically gave Jeff Jarrett the belt. So many bad things happening. Like, what's better, Arquette having the belt or Jarrett having the belt? It's kind of a toss-up.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Anyways,
we should mention that Arquette donated the money he received from his time at WCW to the families of Owen Hart, Brian Pillman, and Darren Drozdoff.
Yeah. So that's good.
Yeah.
Number 8. William Goldberg versus Brock. What's Brock short for?
I think it's just Brock.
Brockhold Lesnar.
This is the match that just happened at Survivor Series.
This just happened last weekend. That's
shocking.
Right.
We'll probably talk about it more than or longer than the match lasted.
Shocking. Yeah, I think we already have. Let's see here. I like this. This match is about 86. Scoops, his notes say this match is about 86 to 89 seconds, and somehow Bill still managed to break a sweat. Well, he's standing there in a bunch of fireworks to start. That's enough to make you sweat.
Yeah, and if he's nervous,
yeah, exactly,
that'll make one sweat.
What the hell, Scoops?
Yeah,
I think we're 3 pages into this. I think Scoops is already breaking a sweat right in this. I like to fuck with him.
So apparently, according to Scoops, in his research, Lesnar was originally supposed to win the match, but things changed within the last week.
Okay.
This
is a big question. We want to know when this happen.
Yeah, rumor has it that Lesnar and Vince both didn't want this to be a one-match deal, and after some negotiations, Goldberg signed on for additional shows, causing the betting odds to swap in Goldberg's favor a day or so before the event. I remember hearing about it the day of the event, that he went from a modest underdog to a massive favorite.
We were watching when we saw it on Twitter. We were watching the show.
That could be.
You were sitting right there.
I think that's. I heard that he was a favorite leading up to the show, but during the show, I think it was a Dave Meltzer tweet that said he was a minus 900 favorite, which is a pretty huge favorite.
There's an interesting sort of subplot here about Lesnar and what Lesnar thinks is good for business, and it's fascinating because evidently feuding with Dean Ambrose and doing something creative with him isn't. And who's to say we're wrong? Lesnar's been in the business for a while. But feuding with Goldberg is. And there's a part of me that really respects the shit out of Lesnar for not phoning it in. That's what it is. He understands that there's money to be made, that there's intrigue to be had, which benefits us on a creative level.
Yeah. And
as fans.
And he sold that match very well. When Goldberg pushed him down, the look of shock on Lesnar's face.
Yeah.
It was all good stuff.
Yeah, it was all really good stuff. And so I love that, if this rumor is correct, Lesnar and Vince both didn't want this to be one match. And after some easy negotiations, Goldberg inked a deal. That is fascinating stuff, knowing that Lesnar, who, obviously has as much sway as he pretty much wants with the company, was on board with this. It's heartening to see that he's not on board with simply, I'm going to come in, saunter about, and then destroy people, and that's going to be it.
Dominate for 5 minutes,
exactly.
Collect my check, and go home.
It shows that he's
at least somewhat invested in his job and in the business.
Yeah, exactly.
That he realizes a good story.
Right. This is interesting. I don't know if this is a scoop speculation or but it says this match was kept short to mimic Goldberg's WCW.
Oh yeah, I read that. I read that too.
Oh, you have? Okay,
yeah.
All right. That was interesting. Let's see here. Looking through some more Scoops notes. Very few people were told the outcome before this match. Many superstars voiced shock and amazement about the finish of the match. Yeah, there was all sorts of great tweets, including one that you liked in particular. Disco Inferno tweeted about this match, and he said, Lesnar just got the Glacier treatment. Glacier was your favorite guy in WCW NWO.
Yeah, World Tour.
Yeah.
The N64 game.
Number 7. Mick Foley wins the belt on Raw. And the finger poke of doom, because they happen on the same night.
Yep.
You saw one company take the reins, listen to their fans, do something creatively innovative.
Yes.
And another company piss off their fans, have 600,000 people switch the channel.
Yep.
And WWE came out on top.
Yeah.
So this was a Raw, and it was pre-taped. And as they were prone to do, Eric Bischoff had Tony Schiavone say
he'd spoil what was happening on Raw.
They would often spoil the outcomes. And he said his words were literally.
I thought you included it on the bottom here. Oh, it's down at the bottom. Fans, as Hollywood Hogan walks away and you look at this 40,000 plus on hand, if you're even thinking about changing the channel to our competition, fans do not, because we understand that Mick Foley, who wrestled here one time as Cactus Jack, is going to win their world title. Ha! That's going to put some butts in the seats. Huh.
Huh. And it did.
And after that statement, 600,000 people changed the channel.
Which is not an insignificant number of people.
No.
A lot of people turned it over.
That is a lot of people.
So yeah, and then the flip. So in that match that episode of Raw, because I went back and watched the whole thing. It's honestly akin to Survivor Series '98, which was only a couple months before this.
Yeah.
In that, and if this is one of those things, I don't know if Russo was still with the company or if he had left. I think he left after.
I think
this.
he had left. Yeah.
Wait, I think this is January '99. He didn't leave till later in '99.
Oh, that's right, October '99.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
So this might have had Russo's fingerprints all over it. Because Survivor Series '98 is one of those pay-per-views that tells a brilliant story in the span of that time. It was not just the culmination of what happened before it, but also within itself. It told all sorts of stories.
Yes.
One big story. And this episode of Raw was the same way.
Yeah.
It brought in, it carried over from when Mankind was screwed out of a title in the first before this. And he came in and he immediately took Shane McMahon hostage, essentially, said he was going to break his arm or break his shoulder or whatever if he didn't get a title shot that night.
Yeah.
And so fast forward to the main event, and that happened, and it had all these different storylines intersecting.
Well, you had the DX Corporation storyline. You had Rock, Foley. You had Stone Cold.
And Vince, yeah,
and
exactly.
Vince, you had all that coming together in the main event of that one show.
Exactly. And it was I would hesitate to call it overbooked. It was, but overbooked has kind of a negative connotation to it. In this case, it was beautifully booked because it was like all the plot threads came together in this Foley win, and people went apeshit crazy for it. They went, and he had plenty of help. Like Stone Cold delivered a chair shot, I think,
to the Rock's head.
To
secure the win for Foley. Yeah,
and it was so flippin' good.
Yeah,
and for WCW, you turn it over and people are just sort of.
It was at the Georgia Dome in Atlanta.
Yeah,
and
they're just sitting there.
This was shortly
The
after.
atmosphere was so different.
Well, this was right after Nash beat Goldberg for the WCW title, ending Goldberg's streak.
Yeah,
you had Scott Hall come in with the taser.
Yeah,
to help Nash win. And so during this episode of Nitro, Goldberg is arrested for stalking Miss Elizabeth.
And they had originally suggested it was going to be a rape charge. And Goldberg, because he's smart, said, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. God, what a bad idea.
It kind of made me laugh, though, down here, the Hogan quote.
Oh, I know.
He called, what did he say? The sexual deviant Bill Goldberg. I'm the man.
The match itself, let's get to that.
Yeah.
So Hogan's like dressed in like business attire. He has slacks.
I think he's got slacks and one of those tight sort of Euro Club T-shirts.
Yeah, and he has dress shoes on, I think.
Yeah, he's all clad in all black.
Yeah, and like most of the matches of them like circling each other in the ring.
Yeah.
And then
can we do an episode one day on the top 10 weirdest Hogan looks? Hogan without mustache.
Oh yeah.
You ever see that when he's like, and look at that's so weird.
I know.
And it's like, I think that's pre NWO, but he's wearing black. Why does he have spiky hair?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's so
the
funny.
Weirdest Hogan looks. The morphing Hulk Hogan.
So anyways,
shit.
They kind of circle each other in the ring. I believe Hogan.
There's some really awkward.
There's some pushing.
There's some middle school shoving going on.
And it ends up with Hogan poking Nash in the chest.
Yeah.
After Hogan brings his fist back to punch him.
Yeah.
And then Nash does this really exaggerated flop on the mat.
Yeah.
Hogan covers him. 1, 2, 3. They celebrate.
They all start laughing.
The NWO reforms.
The crowd starts booing. The Wolfpack were super over too.
Yep.
Like they were super
Nash
over.
was actually a really over face at the time.
I know. And then they ruined everything. It's like that's what they just wanted to do. It was just they would get these things that really worked, and then they would just find ways to screw them up.
You've heard what Nash's reasoning was for doing all this. Is that he wanted the NWO to reform to offer Goldberg a more serious threat.
Yeah, and then Goldberg punched his.
He put his hand through a windshield and tore up his tendons in his wrist or something, so he was hurt, and it kind of derailed the whole angle. So maybe, granted, this match was not good.
Yeah.
But maybe if the storyline had played out as intended, people might have a different view of this match.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, probably not. That's because in and of itself, it's pretty lousy.
It is. It's so arrogant. I mean, the thing is also, like, I imagine it would be kind of difficult especially if you're a performer / booker like Nash was, to play out in your head. Like, you go out there, you see the crowds and their response to you, and you want a certain response, and you have this like longer thing planned out to get Goldberg even further over. And it just doesn't pan out.
Yeah.
But they went to the NWO so many times.
I know.
Goddamn times.
By that point, that was almost 3 years.
And there was a part of me that, like, I remember when this happened.
Into that storyline.
I remember when this happened.
Yeah, me
I
too.
was like, oh, okay, so the NWO is strong again. That's what I thought when going. I was like, that was stupid. But at least the NWO is strong again because it had been so watered down.
Yeah.
And they actually did a kind of a funny B story with the remnants of NWO, because for some reason the entire Wolfpack was absorbed into the New World Order, and then like it was Hogan and Steiner, and I think Buff Bagwell, who were on Hollywood, they came up, but everybody else in Hogan's NWO or Steiner's NWO, whatever, like Stevie Ray, Norton, who else, and a couple of like maybe Mr. Perfect. A couple others were like relegated to the Hollywood B team.
Yeah.
And they were just shit on. And they became kind of a comedy act, which was weird. So at WCW was always like, always in a fascination, never like, oh, it's compelling drama. It was like, well, what random shit are they going to do this week? And this was one of them.
Yep.
Because it was not good.
No.
Number
6.
6. Ric Flair versus Kerry Von Erich
At the WCCW Christmas Star Wars, Christmas Day, 1982.
Are you allowed to say? No, there's so much I love about this. There is so much I love about this.
You mean using the Star Wars in a brand name?
Oh, everything about this. But yes, the fact that they used Star Wars, which at the time was in the middle of its like Empire had already come out.
Yeah, this is right before Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi came out in 83.
Oh, you're right. So yeah, you're like, the biggest franchise in the world is like in the middle of its like, whatever.
Initial run.
But we watched this today, or I watched a bunch of it today. And number one, it's actually a really good match. Ric Flair they're both Kerry Von Erich. He was. Can I say what you said during?
What did I say? He's a charisma what?
Black hole.
Oh yeah.
Which, if you don't want to say it, I will.
Okay.
Like you see him in his promo. Oh, it's very exciting. We're going to get Ric Flair and Kerry Von Erich. It's very exciting. And then you see Ric Flair's promo, and it's not Flair.
No, it's very subdued.
Very subdued Flair. But even Flair subdued is compelling.
Yeah.
Because his voice is compelling and everything about him is compelling.
Well, even when he's speaking softly, there's still conviction.
Right, exactly. Conviction, exactly right. So Flair held the NWA title. This was the incident. This was the match finish that kicked off the epic Von Erich versus the Freebirds feud. And it's great because anything involving Michael Hayes is hilarious. And so the setup, it's Flair versus Von Erich for the NWA title, but they appointed Michael Hayes.
It's like a second referee. Kind of an enforcer, in-ring enforcer.
A shirtless Michael Hayes, mind you.
Yeah.
With jeans on.
Yes, and tennis shoes.
And he's always fixing his hair. And he's not a very good referee. Because it's funny, during the entire course of the match, you've got, number one, this is at the Reunion Arena in Dallas. Mm-hmm. And the people there, either they thought it was real or just were really into it. Because when Kerry Von Erich walks out there, it is like a rock star is coming through the crowd. Mm-hmm. Because every girl in that arena is hugging him, wanting to be like, they're all the women just want to basically have a live sex show right there with him. All the men are cheering for him feverishly. They all want to be him. Ric Flair comes to the ring and they're kind of booing him a little bit. And they get in there and it's just like, you just wish that you could recreate that kind of
atmosphere
again. So it's very palpable.
Yeah.
But okay, so according to Scoop's notes here, before this show, Flair, and by the way, the Freebirds were the second most popular act leading up to this in the WCCW.
Yeah.
They hadn't been there very long. Before this show, Flair put out a bounty on Kerry, offering a reward to anyone who could injure him. The Great Kabuki took this offer and injured Kerry's knee, a storyline event covering for his real-life knee
And they
surgery.
mentioned that knee injury during the match.
Yeah. But the great thing is, it's Michael Hayes. Sorry, I
didn't mean to interrupt you. Did
ahead.
you mention this? According to Scoop's notes, Michael Hayes of the Freebirds was elected by write-in fan vote.
That's interesting. I wonder if it was one of those things kind of like how WWE does their cyber polling.
yeah.
It's like you're given the choice of Michael Hayes and
Buddy Landell.
and then like one of the little wrestlers. Like you're given some options, and obviously it's going to be Michael Hayes. So Michael Hayes was elected special guest referee, and then like he says, there was so you got 4 guys in this ring, and it's a steel cage match.
Yeah.
And so you got Kerry Von Erich, you got Ric Flair, you got Michael Hayes, a shirtless Michael Hayes, and who's like the hairiest individual ever, and then you got this regular ref,
And then you got Terry Gordy.
Terry Gordy's on the outside, making sure he's the enforcer on the outside.
And I read an article about it that said that Hayes was brought in to make sure that Flair didn't use any of his usual heel tactics.
Oh, okay. And he was very active.
Yeah.
Michael Hayes was like Flair would have Kerry up against the ropes punching him, and Hayes would just throw Flair off of him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're the secondary ref. Like, you're not the ref. The ref isn't doing that. You shouldn't be doing that.
I know.
He was trying to get like pinfalls.
Yeah.
He was like way too active. It was hilarious. I was like, Hayes, let them fight. What are you doing, Freebird? But anyways, this so it was a good. Flair ended up bleeding. They used the cage a lot. It was a good cage match. It was a good match. Like Kerry Von Erich, we talked some shit about his charisma or lack thereof.
This is Mike's skills.
This is Mike's skills. He had a good look about him.
In the ring, he was charismatic.
He was good.
Yeah,
he was really, really good in the ring. So towards the end, according to Scoop's notes, he does a better rundown. He says Hayes gets really physical when breaking them up and arguing that Flair's foot was on the ropes during a pinfall. He punches Flair, gets angry when Kerry won't take the easy pin. So, like, Flair is down because Hayes just punched him and is yelling at Kerry Von Erich to pin him, and he won't. Hayes leaves, and Gordy hits Kerry with the cage door.
Hard.
Because Kerry's on his way out, and you see Terry Gordy down there, and it's just that cage just whips back on his head.
Yep.
And people just start going apeshit crazy. You look at the crowd, and they start going batshit crazy on the Freebirds.
Yep.
Scoops here says the ending makes little sense. It needed something more definite. Hayes' actions didn't make the most sense either, causing him to seem erratic. I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was cool. I thought it was is there a lot of reason for Hayes' heel turn, so to speak, or Gordy's heel turn? I don't know. I wasn't there.
But I think Gordy slamming Kerry Von Erich's head in a cage door is fairly definitive in terms of some sort of heel turn.
I know. I can just imagine. See, again, I like playing out the storyline in my head, what happens backstage.
And I think,
like, if it's in storyline and Hayes is like, why did you slam his head in that cage? I don't know. I'm the enforcer.
I think also
this might cause some problems.
We're so used to the television presentation we have now with multiple camera angles and seeing reactions and even getting some of the audio from the ring. This was one shot. That was fairly far back. And apart from Michael Hayes' promo to begin the match, before the match, you don't hear anybody else talking.
Oh, it's great too. And Michael Hayes is also, it's funny because this seems to be also the point where Michael Hayes started talking like this.
It seemed to be the transition because during his promo before the match,
he breaks in it a little bit.
A little bit towards the end, but when he started talking, I said to you, that doesn't sound like Michael Hayes.
I know, when I thought, because I watched it before you came over also, and I wanted to show it to you. And I thought the exact same thing. I was like, I recognize everything about that individual. But the voice. Like, I recognize the hair. I recognize the guy not wearing a shirt. And I recognize
this.
doing this, and I recognize his extremely 1980s jeans.
Yeah.
Which he keeps on adjusting the whole time.
That
he
and his
doesn't have
hair.
a belt. Yeah, that and his hair. Can have a belt. Oh God, it's a lot of fun. If you guys are wrestling history buffs, it's just a lot of fun to watch.
And it kicked off a huge feud.
Massive feud. And the very last Von Erich Freebird match officially happened in 1993, and I don't know who that was between because most of the Von Erichs are dead by then. Number 5. Shane Douglas wins the TNA.
No, that's not right. It's NWA title.
NWA title, which marked the birth of ECW. This happened on August 27th, 1994. And it was an NWA Eastern Championship Wrestling bout. They became, of course, Extreme Championship Wrestling.
According to Scoop's notes, this, of course, happened after WCW split from the NWA.
Yeah.
And since Ric Flair was a WCW employee, the NWA title was declared vacant. Heyman and Todd Gordon, who were the two guys that ran ECW, approached NWA about holding a tournament to crown a new champion using their TV time exposure to do it. But the two planned to use that show to withdraw from NWA publicly and garner attention for their new brand. And they brought Douglas in on the plan after a revolution was born.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, too, because it's a regular match. It's Shane Douglas and Too Cold Scorpio.
I remember watching this at your house. We watched this.
Yeah. And it's a regular match. Good, decent match. You know, I like Shane Douglas. And it's a decent enough match. But then afterwards, to the confusion of everybody in the arena, Shane Douglas, who has the NWA belt, throws it down, picks up the Eastern Championship Wrestling belt, and declares that the dawn of the ECW. Yeah, it's funny, too, because nobody in the arena really knows what the fuck he's talking about. And it's funny because it's like, as big as ECW eventually became, it's fun to look back on this and be like, oh, wow, this was a huge moment that it all began.
Yeah.
But at the time, it could have gone over like a wet fart. You know, if ECW crashed and burned, if they didn't have the inspiration to get extreme with things and kept it Eastern Champion, nobody would care about this. Nobody would ever know about this. But in context of how big ECW became, and the fact that ECW sort of became what it became, thanks to the duplicitous nature that Paul Heyman could sort of, exhibit sometimes, basically betraying the NWA, saying, hey, do you guys want... I can't do Paul Heyman right now. But basically...
Giving NWA, like the longest running wrestling organization, I think, in the States, giving them a platform to grow their brand again after WCW left and decimated the talent, but only to do that and then swerve them to advance their own brand.
Yeah. And that's something, he did that a lot. There are a lot of unpaid wrestlers out there. And so that's interesting. And he says several wrestling historians say that Shane Douglas's actions killed the credibility of the NWA title that night, which was eventually awarded to Chris Candido. So, I don't know. I mean, it's funny because this is at a time, this is 94. So it's not,
these types of shoots didn't happen very often back then.
That's correct. That is absolutely correct.
I mean, to think what was on WWF and WCW television at the time.
I mean, the thing is, the writing was so on the wall with the territories anyways, because cable TV was fully along. We were fucking almost at the real.
Well, this is almost a decade after, or more than a decade, I think, after Vince.
So there
amassed
there really wasn't
his wrestling empire.
Yeah, there really wasn't much to be said in terms of territories anymore, and this was simply like them using a dying sort of company, the NWA, or one that didn't have credibility much in the first place, and they're just using that as a stepping stone to become, the third most recognizable national wrestling brand in the States, which they were within a couple of years.
Yeah.
So, that's always interesting to watch, too. Number 4.
4.
The Montreal Screwjob. Contract negotiations gone wrong.
That's right.
Yeah, this was a shocking finish. Say what you will about it. It was a shocking finish.
Yes, it was.
Go ahead.
I think pretty much everybody knows the backstory to this. So I don't know how much we really want to get into it.
Yeah, not really.
The basics.
Yeah, the basics. So
Bret Hart signed Bret Hart was under contract with WWF. This is all from memory. I'm not reading Scoop's notes. I'm seeing if I'm right.
Okay.
And then Vince approached Bret. I can't remember if he was still under contract, and Vince approached Bret to say, okay, I can't afford you anymore, or I can't re-sign you, or if it was, I can't re-sign you at the money we were paying you.
Let's see here.
I can't remember. That recollection is from the documentary.
I think it was. I think didn't he? They had agreed to like a 10-year deal
yeah,
at like a million a year or something.
It was like a massive deal. Yeah,
it was like a massive deal, and then Vince said, "I can't afford to do that."
Yeah.
And he basically encouraged him to sign with WCW.
Yeah.
And Bret Hart didn't want to. He wanted to stay.
Yeah.
And Vince basically, it makes me wonder if Vince just wanted Bret gone because he saw the writing on the wall and what direction he wanted to take.
Could be.
I don't know. It's kind of fascinating. But because to basically like push him out and say, no, you need to go make more money. You need to go. I always got the feeling from watching that documentary that Vince wanted Bret Hart to go to WCW.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's kind of weird. But anyways, Bret ended up signing a contract with WCW, and that was supposed to begin in December.
Yeah.
And that was a week before Survivor Series, and Bret Hart was still a champion.
Well, I'll check this date. But the date here on Survivor Series is November 9th, which is 3 weeks before the end of the month. Because I know the story always was that Vince was worried that Bret would show up on Nitro the next day with his world title.
Right. No. It wasn't. He wasn't worried that he would show up. He was worried that WCW could rightfully claim that they had signed WWF's world champion.
Gotcha.
That's what it was. He wasn't worried that he was going to show up there.
Okay. So yeah, date's right, November 9th.
Right. And so the bottom line, he needed to get that title off of Bret Hart. And Bret Hart, and he said, well, Survivor Series was in Toronto?
Montreal.
Montreal. And Bret Hart, being a Canadian, being a big face in Canada, said, I don't want to do it. That's basically his home territory, even though it's not really where he's from.
Yeah.
But, it's Canada, and that's, according to Bret, that was enough of a home territory for him not to. And I remember him saying he felt that would be like assassinating the character of the Hitman. And in my opinion, and so basically Vince conspired with.
Well, I don't know if Triple H admitted to it, but isn't it Triple H's idea?
Triple H's idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because I think it was like a phone call. It was either a phone call or a meeting. And everybody was quiet. And Triple H said, we need to just get the belt off him. Something like that. He said, are we talking about taking the belt away from him? Like breaking that ice, which nobody else wanted to do, but Triple H realized it had to be done.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating.
I know.
So anyways, they told Bret that what was going to happen that night, because apparently they were trying with Bret. They outlined several scenarios in which to get the belt off him and keep him looking good.
Yeah.
And he didn't agree to any of them. He said, no, none of that's going to work. I'm not going to drop the belt. So they ended up, they told him it was going to end in a big DQ thing. Mm-hmm. All the factions are going to come out and start battling. And instead what they did was, they told HBK, it was probably Pat Patterson, I think, put him in the sharpshooter, and then we're going to have Earl Hebner ring the bell. And that's what they did.
Yep.
And
it was kind of like the first time, I think, on WWE television where you saw kayfabe broken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You saw Bret get legitimately angry, spits in Vince's face, goes down to the ringside area and starts smashing up the announce desk.
Yeah.
You see Vince yelling at everybody to get the hell out of the ring.
Yeah.
You see HBK acting upset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Yeah, even Scoop's notes here says McMahon was having trouble paying Hart. He was expensive, and Vince didn't see him as an integral part of WWF's future. So I mean, if you look at WWF after that, it is hard to sort of pinpoint like how would they have used it?
I know.
So I like that Shawn Michaels was the reigning European champion during the match. What a weird belt that was.
Carrying on from Bret being upset following the match.
Yeah.
Oh, and also he wrote WCW.
Yeah, he did I remember seeing that. That was in the documentary. I think they showed that.
Yeah.
They don't show it on the broadcast.
Yeah. That Bret went backstage and punched Vince.
Yes.
In the face, and depending on who you believe, either knocked him out or just hit him really hard.
Well, Vince definitely looked in the documentary.
Yeah, he looked like
Hitman Hart wrestling with shadows.
Yeah, he had looked like he had some.
he was having
wobbly
problems.
legs.
Yeah, he had wobbly legs, exactly. Yeah, and he had a big old shiner. This is interesting. I didn't know this. It says supposedly also British Bulldog and Vader warned Brett that this might happen just before the match.
That's interesting.
It's Vader time. Number 3. Bash at the Beach, a.k.a. 1996, the birth of the NWO.
Yeah.
So the Outsiders, Hall and Nash, had shown up in WCW, and they were basically acting like they were Razor Ramon.
You know who I am.
You know who I am.
But you don't know why I'm here.
And the adjective.
Yeah.
So these guys come in, and they start referencing
a third party.
Somebody else to join the Outsiders.
Yeah.
And so a big match was set up. It was Luger, Savage, and Sting versus Hall and Nash.
And a mystery partner.
Mystery third.
So the match starts, and it's a 2-on-3 match.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
It was a pretty basic match.
It was a pretty basic match, exactly.
And then towards the end, Hogan comes out. And because I believe the Outsiders have the upper hand.
Yeah, exactly. They do.
And Hogan comes out, and the announcers think he's there to make the save.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I know, like Heenan says, Hulk Hogan's in the building. Or no, somebody else says Hulk Hogan's in the building. And then Heenan says, whose side is he on? And so they kind of almost spoiled it a little bit.
Kind of telegraphing things a little bit.
He totally telegraphed it. And then he drops a huge leg drop on a prone Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yep.
And man, I have never seen so much trash being thrown into a ring. I mean, this was a huge moment. You have to remember, at the time, Hogan, the luster of Hogan was really wearing off. Like, he had basically overstayed his welcome in the WWF.
Yep.
And then he comes over to WCW, and it's kind of, he's got all these other wrestlers. You know, we get the Flair Hogan Dream matchup that we never got. But then he's like dicking around with the Dungeon of Doom. The Giant comes in, takes the belt off him almost immediately, but you still have Hogan's creative control clause, so he still always has the belt.
Yeah.
And people are starting to boo him.
Yeah.
And this was a big. It's interesting because Hogan never wanted to acknowledge what was best for anything but himself. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because in the end, it ended up working for him because, look, he ended up as world champion in WWE as late as 2003 or 2002, whatever it was. So, like, it ended up working for him. You know, it was just to the detriment of so much else.
Yep.
Of WCW, of TNA.
Yep.
You know? And so, but this moment here, and so it's kind of surprising that he was willing to basically take everything about his character and flip it upside down. Mm-hmm. He went all in on being a heel.
Yep.
And I loved Hogan as a heel. I loved Hollywood Hogan. He was great.
I always thought it was interesting that I guess it seems natural that he would have, have potential qualms about turning heel given the history and the success he's had as a babyface.
Yeah.
And so the backup plan was Sting.
Yeah. Yeah. That was interesting because everybody did. It's so funny, like how much they have to sort of dance around him. But yeah, there was the possibility. Everybody thought there was the possibility that at the last moment he would get cold feet. And then it was going to be Sting.
Yep.
Sting was going to be the third guy. But he went through with it, and he really got into it.
Yeah.
And that was it. And history was made. Number 2. Brock Lesnar versus Undertaker, WrestleMania 30.
This is when Lesnar broke the Undertaker's undefeated WrestleMania streak.
It's pretty crazy.
It is pretty crazy. It was pretty crazy. I remember watching that right out there in your living room, and I was eating some chips.
Yep.
And I stopped chewing my chips because I was so flabbergasted.
Everybody
that the Undertaker lost.
What were you more shocked at, Undertaker losing or Goldberg the other day, or Goldberg last weekend? We were pretty shocked at Goldberg winning.
Yeah,
because of.
But I guess this is higher on the list, so this was more shocking.
This is more shocking. I know history. I think history. This will stand with history because the Undertaker streak never should have been broken.
Nope.
And they broke it. I always remember the look on Brock and Paul Heyman's faces because they were shocked, and Brock just had this sort of smile on his face, like he was shocked and surprised, and oh my God, they really let me do it.
Yeah.
And then Paul Heyman was like, and so yeah, it was. I mean, everybody's probably seen this a million times, or know what it is, and they see that one fella's face with his eyes Imba something or other. So yeah, and it was kind of a crappy match too.
Yeah, Undertaker got concussed at some point during the match. I don't think they ever
yeah.
confirmed when it happened, but Scoop mentions it here, and I think this is when we think it was too, that spot outside the ring where Brock grabs the Undertaker's foot and pushes him backwards. And yeah, apparently the concussion was bad enough that once the Undertaker got backstage, he had to be put in an ambulance.
Yeah,
and that Vince accompanied him to the hospital.
I'm with you. Yeah. But apparently this was decided only hours before that this was gonna happen, to hype up an Undertaker Lesnar thing. So, and I mean, it's worked. I mean, Lesnar, like without this, we wouldn't have had the reaction we had last weekend with Goldberg.
Yeah,
and but it's basically turned Lesnar into their massive marquee name. Him and, according to Meltzer, him and Cena still draw a lot of money, and the difference is always there between the house shows that they're on and the pay-per-views that they're on versus the ones that they're not on.
Yeah.
The difference is there with those guys.
Yeah.
Number one. Bruno Sammartino versus Ivan Koloff. January 18th, 1971 in Madison Square Garden. This is when Bruno lost his WWF belt to Ivan Koloff after an
almost 8 years, yeah.
run.
Yeah.
This was insane.
Yeah. This match is known as the night the Garden went silent, because apparently after the finish of the match, when Koloff pinned Bruno, you could hear a pin drop.
Now, the only thing we could find in terms of video is some like really, really grainy 8mm
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently the audio is all just manufactured after the fact.
Yeah.
So there's not really, but yeah, his title reign was from May of '63 until January of '71. If you watch he gives a good rundown of it on the JBL Legends interview with Bruno Sammartino, and he said he grew tired of the demanding schedule. I think it was something like he was working 6 days a week.
And 2 matches on Sunday, right?
2 matches on Sunday,
yeah,
something like that.
Flair mentioned something comparable to that when he was champ.
So they worked those guys. Those guys.
Yeah.
And 8 years of doing that is a long time.
Yep.
He just said, I wanted to be, I was tired with it. He says, nobody wanted to take the belt off me. He said, they didn't ask me. I asked them. I said, I need some time off. So it's kind of fascinating for him. It was just like, well, this is just a job. I need a vacation.
Yeah.
I need some time off.
Yeah. Because that's 8 years with no days off.
I know.
Or I guess 1 day off a week.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a reign that will probably never be broken.
No.
Although they, if they have long-term plans for the brand split, I mean, I know things can change when Vince wakes up in the morning, but it's the kind of thing they could do with the Universal Championship and the world title being separate things and separate brands.
They can have one brand have a long reigning champion.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's possible.
They could. I doubt they're ever going to do that.
No.
But I like this. Bill Apter said it felt like they were at a funeral. The atmosphere turned from stunned silence to people booing to nearly riotous. And even in the 8mm film, you sort of see, like, you normally, I mean, you can't see a lot, but normally you would see, if it's a big win like that, you'd see like hands and stuff.
Yeah,
and it's
cheering.
Just nothing.
Yeah.
Like nothing happens.
Yeah.
It just happens. And then they just had to get Koloff out of the ring. Like they just needed to get him. I read that. They just had to get him out of there.
Wow.
Get him out of the arena.
But he ended up holding the belt for only 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
At what point he lost the title to Pedro Morales.
That's right. Yeah. Bruno got the belt again in December of 1973.
So about a couple years later.
And he held it for 3 more years. So longest reigning champion ever. For that to drop, that's got to be pretty shocking.
Yeah, that's got to be huge.
Yeah, massive. Anyways, those are the most shocking match finishes we can think of. If you have some others, be sure to let us know in the comments.
Yes.
And be sure to stay tuned tomorrow. We're going to talk about the top 10 opponents we think Goldberg should face off with going from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.